Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Cassidy the Aspiring Author. I'm Cassidy. If you're new here, welcome, it's really nice to meet you, and if you're returning, welcome back, it's good to see you again. So today we'll be talking about City of Bones. It is the first one in the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. So massive spoilers for the entire video. It'll be a full summary and review of the book, my thoughts while reading it, everything, my thoughts beforehand, after. Full disclosure, I have actually read this entire series, not all of her books in the entire Mortal Instruments world, but I've read the whole Mortal Instruments series, so I'm going to try to keep my thoughts and reactions very similar to how I was first thinking the first time I had read this series. There is also a TV show and a book about this series. I've heard that they're very different from the book, but I actually haven't seen them. So if you have and you've also read the book, let me know what the differences were. I'm actually really intrigued. I've seen snippets here and there, but not enough to actually know everything that's different. If anyone's interested, this is the bookmark I was using while reading. It is from Chainsaw Man. It's Aki, as he's going kun. Got it from Phoenix Fan Fusion. It's one of the metal ones again. These are some of my favorite bookmarks. They're amazing. And if you see me look down or off to the side, I'm referring back to my notes. Do not have everything memorized, unfortunately. My brain is not that powerful. Let's get into the book. So, City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. When Clary Frey heads out to the Pandemonium Club in New York City, she hardly expects to witness a murder, much less a murder committed by 3 teenagers, covered with odd markings. This is Clary's first meeting with the Shadow Hunters, warriors dedicated to ridding the earth of demons and keeping the odd werewolves and vampires in line. It's also her first meeting with gorgeous golden-haired Jace. Within 24 hours, Clary is pulled into Jace's world with a vengeance when her mother disappears and Clary herself is attacked by a demon. But why would demons be interested in an ordinary mundane like Clary? And how does she suddenly get the sight? The Shadow Hunters would like to know. Trying to remember my first thoughts before I had read anything, and I don't really honestly remember my first impressions just from the back of this one book, but if I were to read it for the first time again, I think it would be more just sight is capitalized, the S is capitalized, and that's kind of weird because just the word sight shouldn't be capitalized. What happened to her mom? How does she suddenly just disappear? And then who are the other 2 teenagers that she sees? So, Part 1, Dark Descent. So, Clary and Simon, upon entering Pandemonium, which is that little club, they see a blue-haired boy. He gets in past the bouncer. He's actually able to use something called glamour to make something appear as something else or make something disappear completely. So he makes his actual knife look like it's just made out of foam. So he's able to bring an actual knife into the club. This blue-haired boy then sees a beautiful girl, long black hair, really flowy dress, and he's smitten. He's like, her. Whether he's smitten because he wants to unalive her or because he wants to do her, I don't know. I think it's the unaliving, but he follows her as she leads him to a closet, and then 2 boys follow him. All of this Clary sees. She sees him follow the girl, he sees the boys follow this blue-haired boy, but Simon doesn't see any of it. So once they're in this closet, the blue-haired boy noticed Isabel's markings. Isabel's the girl. And then Jace and Alec, the 2 teenage boys who followed, they then follow them in. They're shadow hunters, so hunting demons, keeping rogue warlocks, witches, vampires, werewolves, fairies, all of that in line. And the blue-haired boy is a demon. Clary follows them because she's like, what the hell is going on? And she ends up stopping them from attacking the blue-haired boy, giving him enough chance to attack. He harms Jace, but Jace then unalives the boy. He vanishes. All 3 of them, Isabel, Jace, and Alec, are shocked that Clary can see them. It's not something they come across. They have markings. They are meant to be invisible to all mundanes, but she can see them. Simon ends up following her and coming in with security. but they can't see anything. They can't see the teenagers. They can't see the pile of ash, I think, that the demon turned into. Nothing. So Clary says it was nothing. I'm sorry. They leave Pandemonium. And they go home. Clary very confused, wondering why Simon couldn't see them, why she could. When she gets home, Jocelyn, her mom, is pissed that she was late, and she decides on her own that her, Clary, and her friend Luke are all going to go on vacation for the rest of the summer. Not for just like a week or two, the whole summer. Clary is vehemently opposed to this because she paid for art class and she has a life here. She's going to be away from Simon, her best friend. Like, she's not okay with that. Jocelyn's like, we're doing it. Clary's like, no, we're not, and leaves with Simon to go to a poetry reading for one of Simon's friends and bandmates, Eric. So at the poetry reading, Simon tries to tell Clary how he feels. He's very obviously in love with Clary. He tries to tell her. Clary just kind of ignores him because she sees Jace. And so she follows Jace, leaving Simon, like, I think basically mid-sentence. Jace is snarky and charismatic and all of that jazz. But he basically tells her that she has the sight. Despite being just a regular mundane being just like a normal human with no shadow hunter blood in them. And also that he himself is a shadow hunter. While talking to Jace, she gets a call from her mom, and she actually answers it. She's been ignoring her mother's calls for a minute. She answers this one, and Jocelyn tells Clary, do not come home under any circumstances. Please don't. And she's like, Mom, it was a fight. Like, of course I'm going to come home. Jocelyn's like, no. Call disconnects. Clary's really worried and runs away from Jace to go back to her mom. She ends up having stolen Jace's sensor, which we find out later it's able to like sense if demons are nearby, but she doesn't know what it is. She thought it was a cell phone, so that's why she stole it. But she found out hard way it's not a cell phone. So she goes home, and there's no mom. But there is a demon called a Ravener. It's described to be like centipede-like. And it's there and it attacks her. And Clary gets really hurt, but she's able to jam the sensor down its throat. Centipede-like demon dies. But she is poisoned from this creature. Jace then comes and he puts a rune on her. It creates those markings that she saw all three of the teenagers have. Clary then wakes up in the Institute, and the Institute, we learn, is just a really big place where all the shadow hunters can come. If they're visiting town, they can stay there. It's their home base. It's their home, honestly. And she meets Hodge, who is the tutor of the three teenagers. And there's also another boy, but he is away with the parents of Alec and Isabel right now, the Lightwoods. After Clary wakes up, meets Hodge, everyone, Jace then reveals that he had put a rune on Clary, and everyone's so mad. He says it because he's like, she's a shadow hunter. She has shadow hunter blood in her. She should stay here. Like, we should not try to send her back out into the real world. But everyone's really mad that he did that because that was a really big risk. If she wasn't a shadow hunter or didn't have any shadow hunter blood in her, then the rune would have really burned her. And worst case scenario, it could have turned her into something horrible. We will find out what that horrible thing she could have turned into is in just a couple of chapters. Clary also ends up being able to use the Institute's phone, and she calls Luke, Jocelyn's friend. And he was basically like her only father figure growing up. He's family. Except when she calls him, he tells her, don't ever call me again. I'm not responsible for you. Stay where you are. And she is crushed. Not only has she lost her mom, like her mom just disappeared. She found out demons exist. There's these things called shadow hunters. She's in a whole new world that she doesn't understand and in a place with people she doesn't know. Her, like, basically father figure has rejected her. And so she is heartbroken. But she's able to convince Hodge to let her and Jace go together to her mom's place so that she can get stuff and just search. While there, they see a Forsaken. And that is the horrible thing that Clary could have turned into A Forsaken is basically just a human that have too many runes put on them, like a regular mundane with no Shadowhunter blood in them. They had way too many runes put on them, and they turned into just mindless killing machines. And it's really sad, but because there's no way to really undo that. So Jace unalives the Forsaken. He gets hurt in the process, but puts a rune on himself, so he heals, and he heals completely, because the wound wasn't that bad. They then meet Madame Dorothea, who is Clary's, like, downstairs neighbor, I think. From my, like, imagination of this apartment building, Clary and Jocelyn live upstairs, Madame Dorothea lives downstairs. Dorothea reveals, she's like, the Forsaken. Oh, are you a Shadowhunter? Like, she knows everything. So she reveals that she has known about this world forever. So, Clary and Jace go inside Madame Dorothea's place. She reveals that she's the daughter of a witch, which we find out witches and warlocks are infertile, but she was adopted by a witch. So while she has no magical abilities, she knows everything about the Clave, which is basically just the Shadowhunter government. And Shadowhunters, demons, warlocks, she knows everything. And she has always been like one of those like psychics that you pay like $50 for to like read your palm and stuff, or like look into the crystal ball. But she knows more than people let on. She is also in possession of a portal. So walk through it. You imagine where you want to go. The portal takes you there. Clary and Jace go through the portal. And because Clary wasn't thinking of a place, she wasn't thinking of anything, it took them to the last place the portal sent someone, which is Luke's place, which means Luke had used the portal. So Simon is there. He's stalking Luke's place. So Clary reveals everything to Simon. All about Shadowhunters, demons, all that jazz. Jace is forbidden to reveal anything, but Clary is not part of the Clave. She's not actually a Shadowhunter. And so she reveals it all. Simon takes it in stride. We love Simon. He is being such a good friend and so calm and understanding throughout all this. I mean, obviously he's like a 15-year-old boy, and so he's not completely calm, but he's taking this so much better than I know a lot of people would. They then sneak into Luke's place, try to figure out what is going on, and they see a duffel bag filled with Shadowhunter weapons, and Clary's like, he's part of this world too? Like, what the hell is going on? Then they hear Luke come back, so they hide. Not only is it Luke who comes back, but two other Shadowhunters come. They say, Valentine has Jocelyn. Valentine, by the way, she had learned this from Hodge. But Valentine is a Shadowhunter who had died a long time ago, like 15, 16 years ago. But he died only after he had turned on his own kind. He had turned on Shadowhunters during the Accords, which is like a peace treaty between the Shadowhunters and the Downworlders, like werewolves, vampires, all of that, who wanted to remain in like good graces. They just had to like not hurt humans, basically. I'm sure there's more rules, but it was like a peace treaty that was supposed to be signed by everybody. Valentine turned against the peace treaty and attacked. Then he had died. The demons that Clary has been seeing, they have all been mentioning Valentine, that he's back, he's alive. No one really believes it, but these two Shadowhunters, they say that Valentine has Jocelyn. And they'll give Jocelyn up if Luke can tell them where the Mortal Cup is. The Mortal Cup, we find out, is a cup that the angels had given them to make Shadowhunters. Kids drink out of it, and then they can turn into Shadowhunters. But you have to be very selective. Not every human can turn into a Shadowhunter. And if you try to give it to a kid who isn't ready, who isn't meant to be a Shadowhunter, then that kid is going to not be alive anymore. These Shadowhunters who work for Valentine want the Mortal Cup. Luke is like, keep Jocelyn. I don't know where the cup is. I don't really care. Do whatever you want. And this crushes Clary all over again, because Luke and Jocelyn were the best of friends. And again, she grew up with Luke, being a father figure of somewhat to her, and hearing that he doesn't care about not only her, but her mom is crushing. We also find out after Luke and the two men leave that those two men were the same two men who had unalived Jace's father right in front of him. Then all three of them, so Jace, Clary, and Simon, they all go back to the Institute. Simon is very smitten with Isabel. She's gorgeous. He's like puppy dog, like drooling, like following her. It's kind of cute, but it's kind of cringy. Hodge then tells them, Jace and Clary, that the Circle is rising again. The Circle being the group that Valentine had formed back when they were just students learning how to be shadow hunters. This was also the group that had turned against their own kind during the Accords. He also reveals that he himself was a part of the Circle, as well as Jocelyn, because Jocelyn was Valentine's wife. Alright, we are now in part 2. Easy is the descent. So Hodge just told Jace and Clary that he himself was a part of the Circle, as well as Jocelyn, because she was the wife of Valentine. He also reveals everyone, so obviously himself, Jocelyn, Luke was a part of the Circle, Jace's dad, Michael Wayland, was a part of the Circle, the Lightwoods, so Alec and Isabel's mom and dad. And then there were a couple of others, but they're not as important to the story. Like the two who were working for Valentine that went to visit Luke, they were part of the Circle, but their names aren't as important. So they were all part of the Circle, but the ones that were listed had all left at certain points. Hodge was punished, as were the Lightwoods. Hodge's punishment was far more intense. He can never leave the Institute. He can never go back home to their home, Idris, the home of the Shadow Hunters. It's apparently beautiful. Everyone always talks about how amazing Idris is. But he can never step foot back in there. He can't even take a step outside the Institute. The Lightwoods are allowed to come and go out of the Institute kind of as they please, but they can only visit Idris on official business. Hodge claims that it's because they had a young child. They were also friends with some higher up shadow hunters, so they got special treatment because of that. Luke had disappeared long before the Accords. Jocelyn had disappeared from the Clave in general. And then Jace's dad, Michael, had taken him and raised him in like a cottage kind of thing and was off the grid as well. So the only ones who wanted to stay with the Clave were the ones who were punished. So there's obviously a block in Clary's mind. It's why she has such a hard time with sight, why she hasn't been able to like use the sight like the entire time she's been alive. And it's decided that the brothers should, capital B, brothers, should remove it. So Brother Jeremiah comes. These brothers are Clave members, but they're immortal and they're also mutilated. So Brother Jeremiah comes. It's revealed he can't remove it. So they decide to visit the Silent City, also known as the City of Bones, so that all of the brothers as a collective can try to figure out what is going on and if they can remove it. It's revealed that they can't without destroying her mind, but the one who put it on her is Magnus Bane. So if anyone can remove it, it's him. Jace is with her the whole time, and he tells her how his dad had died when he was, I think, 10 years old. He was killed by those two men that they had saw at Luke's, plus some Forsaken, and his throat was cut. It's also revealed that Valentine wants the Mortal Cup so that he can just kidnap a bunch of kids and make all of them drink out of the cup, but it will kill like 80% of these children. But he thinks that having 20% of them just be able to become shadow hunters is worth so much more. So the entire group, meaning Alec, Isabel, Clary, Jace, Simon, they all eat at a Downworlder cafe. They treat all kinds of beings, humans, well, like shadow hunters, but like human food, fairies, werewolves, vampires, all of that. Isabel shows that she has a flyer for Magnus Bane's party, so they decide to go. So they decide to go that night. It's really early right in the morning, though, so they have a whole day to like rest, relax. Clary ends up finding a photograph of the Circle in Hodge's things. Hodge lets her keep it, but not to show Jace because he doesn't have any photographs of his dad, and Hodge doesn't want Jace to be reminded of his dad and of his dad's death. Jace, like, puts Clary to bed, like, tells her a bedtime story, but it's tragic. It's a story about his childhood. His dad had given him a falcon to train, and it was really hard. The falcon would bite him. He was bleeding all the time. But eventually, Jace made the falcon love him. Jace's dad then unalives the falcon, brutally, and tells him, "You didn't train it. You taught it how to love. You handicapped it. And yeah, he tells it as like a sweet little bedtime story about his dad teaching him. But it's tragic. It's horrible. Like, it's abuse. It's horrible parenting. They then get ready for the party after Clary takes a little nap. She borrows Isabel's dress because she doesn't have any cute dress clothes. Literally t-shirts on Isabel are dresses on Clary. Isabel's super tall. I'm imagining like tall for a girl. So like I'm imagining like 5'9", 5'10". I don't know if that's true or not. But Clary is described in the book as being like 5'2". So she's real short. She is looking cute, and more than cute, she's looking hot. Simon is like in awe. Jace even notices how hot she's looking. It's amazing. Clary also confirms that Alec is gay. She's been able to tell based off how Alec interacts with Jace. She asks Isabel about it. Isabel tells her, do not say anything. She's like, I love my brother, but the Shadowhunters, since they're such a small like group and they're dwindling in numbers, they obviously want their children to be able to like reproduce with other Shadowhunters and make more Shadowhunters. So Alec being gay kind of puts a hindrance on that. Isabel is fiercely protective of Alec, which I adore. And Clary's like, no problem. I won't say anything. I was just curious. But they go to Magnus's party. Magnus the whole time is like flirting with Alec. It's so cute. Love it. But they find out that her mom wanted her brain tampered with, basically. She went to Magnus when Clary was 2 years old, and Jocelyn knew that Clary had the sight. Jocelyn didn't want Clary to be able to know anything about this world, so she had Magnus basically put a block on her mind. Magnus said that removing the block is going to be too dangerous. Jocelyn had to visit Magnus to get the block on Clary like every 2 years, so it should just fade, and it already is. But Magnus doesn't want to harm Clary's mind any more than it already is, so he's like, just wait, it'll be okay. They leave Magnus's room where they were talking. Oh, Magnus also lets Clary look at some runes to like open up her mind to it and be able to understand the different runes that she's looking at and what they can do. And so then after that, they leave the room. Simon has turned into a rat. He drank a potion, turned into a rat. And then Magnus kicks everybody out. Simon is no longer there. He was in Clary's backpack, and one of the vampires stole him. So they're like, that really sucks. So Jace and Clary are going to go get him back. They visit a church to get some weapons. There are Shadowhunter weapons underneath every church. So they just break into a church, steal some weapons, but it's meant for them to be stolen. And then they go to the Hotel Dumont. I think it's like Dormont or something, but Dumont is to like, means to die, I think. It's where the vampires are holed up. It's their lair. So they sneak in. This kid, Raphael, helps them. He like tells them how to get in, and he comes with them because, as he claims, the vampires had unalived his brother after his brother had snuck in, and he wants vengeance. They get in. It's revealed that Raphael is actually a vampire, and not only a vampire, he is their leader. Clary is trying negotiations because Jace has like a knife to Raphael's throat, and they have Simon. She's trying to be like, hey guys, trade, come on. Then werewolves come in, like, storm the hotel. Now there's a situation. The werewolves are there for Clary. Clary's like, why? I don't know any werewolves. What is going on? Raphael refuses to give them Clary because he wants to be the one to unalive her because she trespassed onto their property. So big fight ensues. Clary ends up throwing Jace's weapon, like a dagger, at a werewolf who is charging them, makes contact, like it goes into his side. Incredible considering she had never thrown a weapon before, so amazing. She also has Simon back at this point. They make it up to the roof where there are vampire bikes, and it's rumored that vampire bikes can fly, so Jace is like, bet, let's try. So they fly, but the problem is it's now becoming sunrise, and these bikes run on demon power, and demons can't be in the sun because they'll burn. It's kind of like what you think of when you think of vampires, how they can't be out in the sun. Demons can't be out in the sun. So because the bike runs on demon power, it stops working when it's their sun out. So they crash land. They're all okay. Simon's actually back to normal at this point. He is no longer a rat. Yay! Very intense scene. I went through that very quickly. It was pretty intense, though. There was a lot of fighting. And a lot of not knowing if they were going to make it out and all be okay. So after that, they go back to the Institute. Hodge is pissed. Everyone's pissed because it was dangerous, and Jace shouldn't have done that and shouldn't have gone alone. But he's like, who cares? Alec confronts Clary, tries to get her to go back home, to go anywhere else, because Jace is not acting like himself when Clary's around. Clary gets mad, and when Alec had called her selfish, she's like, I'm not the selfish one, you are. You're clearly in love with Jace and not saying anything. Alec is so mad. So mad. And, like, threatening her, basically, to not tell Jace. And, like, she's a little scared, but she also wouldn't. That thought had never even crossed her mind of telling Jace. She just wanted to hurt Alec. She goes back to her room. She is too wound up, so she draws, which is what she does when she's too wound up. She draws Jace on the roof of the hotel, but instead of just normal Jace back, he has wings. And when they were on the roof of the hotel, she was thinking of a rune that it didn't form fully in her mind, but I think that's what the rune would have done, or at least the rune in her mind would have done, would given them wings, and then they could fly down, which I think would be so sick. But she gives Jace wings. Anyway, then Simon comes. They talk as they always have. They're friends. They talk about Simon's feelings as a rat, his feelings about Isabel. Simon then falls asleep. And then Jace comes to, like, pick her up, take her on a little picnic in their greenhouse. It's so cute because her birthday's the next day. And yay, it's so cute. So they talk about families, they talk about birthdays, and then they kiss. Yay! Oh, so cute. They go back to her room and they kiss again outside her room. And then Simon comes out and is so mad. Jace is so mad because Clary's like, shit. So Jace says some very hurtful things, biting words to hurt Clary. Simon confesses his feelings for Clary, that he was trying to make her jealous by flirting with Isabel. It's basically just a shit show. When Clary is, like, distraught in her room, she realizes that she can actually do incredible things. When she's running her hands over the drawing of Jace with the wings, she can feel the wings. So she goes to Jace, despite everything that just happened. He's like the one person she's like, Jace, I can, like, let me tell you about this. He's like, what the hell, lady? But also seeing Clary, and he feels feelings that he's never had before. She's beautiful and doesn't know it. She's intriguing. All that sappy, cringy, good stuff. But Clary shows him drawing up a cup, put a rune on it, on the back, put hand through, painting, drawing, and out comes actual cup. It's incredible. And then she's like, I know where the cup is. I know where the mortal cup is. Her mom had gifted Madame Dorothea tarot cards. She had painted all of the tarot cards herself, and she hid the mortal cup in the tarot cards. In plain sight, because she was right upstairs, there was a portal super close by in case they needed to escape with the cup, and nobody would know. Nobody could get it unless they knew this rune, which Jace didn't know the rune, so after coming to this realization, they then gather everyone. Hodge, Alec, Isabel, and Clary calls Simon, despite everything, for a ride, because they can't exactly take a taxi with the mortal cup and having a normal human be involved in this. So Simon comes to pick him up. Clary and Simon kind of make up. They talk a little bit. He, like, gives a little smile. Like, he can't stay mad at her. And he is her best friend, so she was never mad at him. She just wants things to go back to normal. So the entire group goes to see Madame Dorothea, aside from Simon, who stays with the car because they don't want it to get towed and they need a getaway driver. Clary gets the cup from the tarot card. Yay. And then demon emerges from Madame Dorothea's body. She was, like, possessed by a demon, which means she had been unalived by that demon as well. Tragic, because she was eccentric and a little odd, but she was so nice and she really helped them and she really could have been such a good ally, but tragedy. So it's a demon called Abaddon, who is one of the greater demons and one of the demons that's so much harder to kill because you can't just unalive their physical body in the human realm, you have to unalive their ethereal body in the, like, demon realm as well. So they're almost impossible to get rid of completely. But they all fight, aside from Clary, who doesn't really know how to fight. Alec gets extremely hurt. Like, Demon was going after Jace. Alec threw himself in front. He's, like, not moving, hurt. Simon comes in, like, freaking knight on a white horse, shoots out the skylight with a bow and arrow because he went to camp and knows archery. And so shooting out the skylight brought sunlight into the room, getting rid of the demon, because even though Abaddon is a greater demon, still can't handle sunlight. Doesn't kill it, obviously, but gets rid of it. Yay! They then race back to the Institute because runes are not working on Alec right now because the demon, like, got claws into Alec. I don't know. Poisoned him. Runes aren't working. They race back to the Institute, trying to take care of him. So they get Alec into, like, the medical ward. Isabel's with him. It's then revealed that Hodge is a traitor. He knocks out Jace, puts Clary behind, like, an invisible shield so she can't get to them. After he has his pet, like, bird, attack bird, which we find out is actually Valentine's pet attack bird, but he has the bird attack Clary, get the cup from her, and then he gives the cup to Valentine, who appears in, like, an ethereal kind of form, but still able to, like, get the cup. Valentine then releases the curse that's on Hodge. He can step outside the Institute, and that's what he does, but Valentine not only steals the cup, he steals Jace, an unconscious Jace. Clary then is able to shatter the invisible shield with a rune, and she goes after Hodge. While Hodge was never really a fighter, he is a trained shadow hunter, so he obviously, like, kind of wins the fight. Before he's able to unalive Clary, however, a werewolf attacks him and saves her. The werewolf turns out to be Luke! Yay! He is the leader of a werewolf pack, the same pack that ended up storming the hotel filled with vampires, and the werewolf that Clary herself, like, threw a dagger into is Luke's, like, third in command or something. It's one of his, like, top two. She's like, my bad, dude. So sorry. He's like, nah, it was a good shot. Clary is still very much does not trust Luke because of everything that he told her and everything that he told the two Valentine's, like, subordinates about Jocelyn. He's like, please listen to my story, which then leads us into part 3, The Descent Beckons. So it's Luke's story about how when he was, like, a kid, teenager, he was never really a good shadow hunter. And then Valentine took him under his wing, taught him a bunch. Luke became really proficient, and that was just Valentine's thing. He would take in outcasts, people who weren't good. He would help them. He would care for them. And he basically was just building a little cult because then they would love him in turn. Jocelyn was always a little bit stepped back from the cult, but she ended up falling in love with Valentine. They had a baby boy. Luke ends up being bitten by a werewolf when they're adults. Or very old teenagers. I'm not entirely sure the age that they were, but Luke ends up being bitten by a werewolf because Valentine didn't have his back. Now, not every werewolf bite turns the bitten into a werewolf. So they were waiting. Unfortunately, Luke did turn into a werewolf. Valentine has always been very much like, all downworlders are evil. We can't trust any of them. None of them should be alive. We gotta rid the world of them. So he told Luke that he should do the honorable thing and self-unalive. Luke, however, didn't want to do that, so he ran away. And he found the werewolf pack and wanted to challenge the one who bit him, which happened to be the werewolf leader. Luke did want to die, but he didn't want to die without a fight. So they fight, and Luke actually wins. He unalives the werewolf leader, which made him the new werewolf leader. Then the Accords happen. Werewolf's pack attacks because he knows what the Circle and what Valentine is going to do. Oh, and then before the Accords, him and Jocelyn have, like, communication. They send notes because Jocelyn knows that he's alive, and it's just, Jocelyn is already not feeling what Valentine is wanting to do, so she makes a plan to get away. Unfortunately, before she can fully get away with their son, there is a house fire where they live with bones of an adult male, presumably Valentine, a child's bones, and 2 other adults who are assumed to be, I think, Jocelyn's parents. Valentine is presumed dead along with their son and her parents. So Jocelyn goes under the radar. She's pregnant again. She goes under the radar, though, of the clave, gets away. Luke's not feeling being the werewolf pack leader, so he finds Jocelyn, and that's where we are today. Jocelyn was obviously pregnant with Clary at the time, so Clary is so mad that she's Valentine's daughter. He's evil. He's like an evil cult leader. And she's like, why am I his kid? What the hell? Valentine still has Jace, so they gotta find him. She figures out where he's being holed up, because she's a smart cookie. They all go, her, Luke, and Luke's werewolf pack. When they get there, there's a ton of Forsaken. Luke's like second in command, I think. Unfortunately, is unalived by a Forsaken. But they make it in. Luke and Clary find Jocelyn. She is in a magical coma, and she has cuffs around her wrists and her ankles that are, they're either made of iron or silver. I can't remember in this book series what werewolves can't, like, handle. I think it's still silver. But Luke can't touch the cuffs, unfortunately. Or the shackles, I guess, would be a more appropriate term. And then the two men who are Valentine's subordinates who visited Luke at his home, they come into the room. Luke unalives one of them in a cool way. He like throws a scalpel, hits the neck. It's amazing. He then attacks the other one while Clary escapes and tries to find Jace. Finds Jace. Valentine comes in the door. And she's like, Jace, yo, gotta go. And he's like, no, that's my dad. Which means Valentine is Jace's dad. And Valentine is Clary's dad. Which means that they're siblings. And, oh my god. They're siblings, yet they kissed. And, like, are basically falling in love. And that's so tragic. So tragic. Clary knows this. Valentine knows this. Jace doesn't know it right away, but he finds out very shortly after. He's very much this whole time like, no, there was a huge misunderstanding. My dad is actually good. Everything he's done is for the greater good of the clave, of all shadow hunters. And Clary's like, nah, dog, we gotta go. He evil. Come on, listen to me. Jace only snaps out of, oh, my dad is perfect. When Luke comes, they fight, and Valentine is about to unalive Luke. Clary is like, please, you're gonna make me watch him die. Like, you're gonna make me watch this. Just like you watched your own dad be unalived, or you thought you watched it. Like, she's like, please, he's basically my dad. And snaps him out of it. He attacks his dad. They kind of scuffle, but really it's Valentine versus Luke. Luke's like third in command, comes in, gets in the way. Unfortunately, Luke's pack member dies in place of Luke. Valentine unalives him, which is horrible, and I hate it, but it happens. Valentine is able to escape through a portal that shows not only Idris, but him and Jace's home in Idris. Jace is so tempted to follow Valentine. He's mad that Valentine lied to him, basically. But also there's the appeal and the attraction of going back to Idris. Clary is able to convince him not to go. She knows that if Jace walks through that portal, she'll never see him again. Valentine will either unalive Jace, or Valentine will brainwash Jace. Either way, she will not ever see this Jace again. So he doesn't go through. And now we are in, finally, the epilogue. The ascent beckons. So Jocelyn ends up being in a human hospital. Clary goes to visit a lot. Luke basically lives there. Like, caring for her, being there for her, talking to her. It's very sweet. Clary and Simon are now back on better terms. They're friends again. I think Simon still loves her, and Clary loves him, but not in the same way that Simon loves her. She's just happy to have her friend back. Simon seems okay with being friends. So Clary goes back to the Institute. Isabel is thrilled to see her. So happy that she's okay, that everything worked out. Clary's like, Isabel, girl, I thought you didn't like me. She's like, yeah, girl, I didn't think I liked you either. But she's like, I was really worried about you, and I really like having you around. And so they're going to be friends, and it's so cute. Magnus is the one who healed Alec. Magnus the wizard, or the warlock. Very exciting, very happy about that. Alec is okay, and he accepts Clary as well. He appreciates her and the fact that she is very kind and tries to do very kind things. I don't think they'll ever be besties, but he still accepts her. She goes to see Jace, who is obviously very sad. Not only his dad, who he thought was not alive, is actually alive, but evil, and almost tricked him. And he grew up without a mom, thinking that she wasn't alive, but she actually is. It's a lot for, like, a 16-year-old boy to take in. Despite all that, he does feel a sense of belonging and a sense of home with Clary. A sense that he's never truly felt before. It's something just so comforting about her and about them. Then finally, they fly off into, it's not the sunset because it's one of the vampire bikes, but like, they fly off to visit Jocelyn in the hospital because Clary thinks that if Jace talks to Jocelyn, she'll wake up. He doesn't really want to do it because that's not his mom. Like, he didn't grow up with her. Like, he doesn't view her as a mom. But Clary is desperate, and so Jace does it for Clary. And that, children, is City of Bones. So that's obviously the first book in a really long series in a really big world. There'll be a ton more videos coming out about this series and about this world. Please comment down below about what you thought of the book. And if you would like to comment about stuff that comes up in future books, please do so, but please be kind and respectful and realize that maybe not everyone knows, and so let people know that you're saying something that could be a spoiler. If you liked the video, please leave a like. And yeah, comment, let me know what you thought. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.